delighted and excited to bring you today's guest on Inspired Coach Podcast. Her name is Elisha Tichelle, and she is, without question, the person that I turn to and know best when it comes to all things related to our nervous system. And Elisha is here today to talk to us about the importance of nervous system regulation as a coach, and indeed you're going to find in this conversation ahead just simply as a human being as well. Elisha Tichelle is a nervous system and embodiment coach and priestess. Following a 20-year career as a somatic researcher and professor, Elisha supports her clients in expanding their nervous systems so their work can make a greater impact in the world without burning out. Elisha's facilitation guides depth nervous system regulation as a spiritual journey of empowerment, moving people out of survival and into embodied states of flow, connection, and mastery. Her certification programs train space holders, facilitators, and coaches to incorporate nervous system work into their businesses and lives. You can find out more about her at elishahalpin.com. That's HALPIN.com. This is an incredible interview. Everything related to the nervous system is a hot topic right now, and for very good reason. Elisha has this extraordinarily in-depth but also accessible way of talking about our nervous systems, why they are so foundational to everything that we do as space holders, and her own way of imparting embodied practices, awareness, and education about how you can connect better with your own nervous system as a coach and space holder. Priestess Elisha Tichelle, welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast. I'm honoured to have you as our guest today.
Oh, I'm so honoured to be here.
We're going to be talking today about a topic that I know is a hugely significant part of your life and legacy and work, and that is the nervous system. Mm-hmm. And this is a topic right now, the nervous system, that is like, it's sizzling. It's hot.
It's sizzling. It's trending.
Yeah, it's on the up, right? It is. Yeah. It is seriously on the up, and it's been on the up for a while, and it's still remaining hot. It's bubbling away. And I wanted to start out by asking you today, why do you think that is? Why are so many people right now interested in everything to do with the nervous system?
Yeah, I think part of it is because we threw so many tools and modalities at ourselves and at our people, and nobody's life was changing. And so people kept saying, well, what else? Well, what else? I mean, that's how I got to the nervous system. I did somatics for 15 years before I ever bothered to understand what was actually happening into the nervous system. So I think that's a lot of it, is that people had tried all the stuff. We were doing all the things that everyone said was going to regulate us, and we still felt dysregulated, and we still feel out of control. I think where it also has become hot is that in the coaching world, we tend to pick up a tiny thread and run a mile with it before we've really considered, do we understand what we're talking about? And so it's become good rhetoric. And it's become, as these things do, trending, it's become a way of trying to give a code or a signal to people. Oh no, I know what I'm doing now. I'm with it. I'm in it. So I think there's there's great things about the trending and the hotness. And then I think there's a lot of things for us to pay attention to and be a little bit more ethical and clear about in terms of the hotness. But I also think the last part of why it's hot is the world needs it. And so when these things arrive into our collective consciousness, even when there is gift and shadow in it, it's because it's answering an ask from humanity to say, how are we going to be here? How in the world are we going to do this? And the answer is their nervous system needs support. That's how we're going to do it.
Well, we definitely need to talk about that more, because even outside the space of talking about what we need as coaches and space holders to do this work well, we just need it, and I know you know this, as human beings, because there is so much going on in the world right now that is unfathomable.
Right.
To even comprehend, let alone reconcile with ourselves in some ways. And there are some things that are happening in the world that are so heinous that they're not reconcilable. And then we go, well, what do we do? You know, how do we even function within that? And this is, of course, connected to a word that you mentioned before, which I want to come back to, and that is about regulation. Talk to us, please, about the connection between our nervous system and regulation, because to do this work and to even just function in inverted commas well as a human being, we need to try to be as regulated as we possibly can be. What does that word actually mean to you? Let's start there first, because I think it means different things to different people.
It sure does, but let's start with some science here. So regulation happens at the autonomic level of our system. We can influence it. We can consider ourselves to partner with it, but you can't control it. And when we're attempting to do regulation, or regulatory practices would maybe be an easier, less confusing way of saying it. When we do practices towards regulation, but we do them with an intention to control, to mitigate, to get out of, to suppress, to sequester, we're actually adding more stress in. And stress is what then is stress is what we're trying to regulate, right? So sometimes the very thing that you think you're doing to regulate yourself is actually dysregulating your autonomic system, putting more load onto the nervous system, putting more things in that the nervous system has to navigate. So we think about regulation as, what are the set points that your system will return to, move with, and kind of mobilize or immobilize based on, right? So regulation's happening below the level of your conscious awareness, and it's not in your control. It is in your aspect to recalibrate or reset those set points. And that's where we can think about, what am I doing towards my regulation, right? So if we think about, you are not building that light bulb that's sitting in your room. You are not wiring the wall, but when you flip the switch, that light comes on. And that's what our regulation practices do, right? They're flipping switches. They didn't build that wiring, they didn't put it into the wall, and they didn't build that bulb. So we have maybe to meet more of our fear of being not in control of our bodies. We might need to meet more of that, those places where we want to, make the outcomes that we want, to control the experiences we're having. Regulation, if we think about it as a thing, is a spectrum of experience that allows us to access support to navigate chaos or dysregulation.
Thank you for that. And it makes me want to ask you, because I think, Elisha, what you say there about us sometimes attempting to do things to regulate ourselves, whether it be calm ourselves or along that spectrum, even work with ourselves to use our voice more, to speak up, or whatever it may be. It's not always about necessarily settling down. It may actually be emerging in some way.
That's right.
Is that you mentioned there are certain things that we sometimes think that we do to assist with that, and actually it's not helping at all. Can you give us an example of that? Because I think that could be really practical for people to hear.
Yeah, if I could encourage us to all do one thing, it's to throw the word calm out when we're talking about regulation or our nervous system or anything. Again, what I said, like, I think where people started using calm, we should have used the word regulation. Your regulation, right? What am I looking for? Regulation, not calmness. So let's say you're going to go live on Instagram because you're going to talk about your new offer. And all of a sudden your body feels a little flush and your pits start sweating and your voice feels a little weird and your belly feels a little weird and you can't quite form a thought. And you go, I'm too nervous, I can't do this. I need to calm down. And what we might say instead is, oh, I'm feeling a lot of energy come in to prepare me for this expression. I don't know how to ground it. I need some support.
Big difference.
Big difference. Because when we're going to express, when we're going to go magnetize things in the world, when we're going to go hold space for other people, you need more energy in your body. If you haven't entrained yourself to have the channels open in your nervous system to move the energy in your body, it's not going to know where to go. And it feels really uncomfortable. And we get twitchy and itchy. Pit sweating is a normal expression of extra energy in your body. It's really good. It's actually moving the energy. So we should all just get over having little pit stains, right? Because that means that our system's actually working and it's regulating. And so that is pulling off the excess energy that your body doesn't need, right? And so the more that we practice in embodiment, the more that we have tools for grounding. We do want to feel grounded. Right? We don't want that energy to move towards anxiety. We want it to move towards grounding, but you do need more energy in. So if we've learned to use our regulation practices in that moment before we go live or before we go teach or before we do something to suppress and control that energy, we don't actually have enough life force in our body, which means we go towards depletion, we go towards burnout, we're overworking to deliver, to show up, to hold the space, to be with our clients, to listen actively, to do all of these things that we want to be doing in those sessions, in our marketing, in our messaging, all those places, and we burn ourselves out. We use too much of our finite life force in those moments. So the activation process is meant to serve us. And our job to work with our nervous system is to learn how to mobilize through the 3 channels of fight, flight, and freeze with clarity, support, and choice.
Thank you so much for explaining that so brilliantly. So much of this really is about awareness to begin with, isn't it? And it's about re-educating ourselves from the, even what you mentioned about calm. Like when you were talking about that, I was like, okay, if I could go back in time and just have this conversation with every single person that's ever said to me, calm down.
Right.
Like, I feel like I just, right? I feel like I just want to channel everything that you just said there and say, actually, no, I won't calm down.
Right.
This is actually what we're going to do.
Totally. Like, do you remember that statement that used to be on lots of stuff? I was like, keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
I want it to be rebranded as keep connected and carry on. Right? Because it connected. When we're connected to ourselves, we can trust how that expression's coming forward. Right? Which for some of us is going to be fiery and spicy and sparky. And some of us is going to be sensuous and rolling. And for some of us might be a little quieter, a little softer, a little, right? And all of those are perfect modes of expression. Depending on who we are, how we be doing things, what it is we're engaging with, right? And so the idea of like being actually connected to ourselves and then trusting ourselves to carry forward our expression from that place is just so much more fun and juicy than this idea that we should be sort of like flatline calm. Because if you've ever had one of those heart machines hooked up to you, you don't want it to be flat.
No, you don't.
You don't.
No,
you want that.
Absolutely. And what this is about aliveness.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
This connection to ourselves helps us to understand our own aliveness. And of course, I think it's really important to mention, I mean, it's woven in everything that you've already said. Elisha, is that obviously this is different for every single person.
That's right.
What looks like one person's regulated is another half flatline to someone else.
Exactly. So the difference of understanding our embodiment versus our expression.
Talk to us about that a little bit more.
Well, they're two different modes of they're two different aspects, right? So our embodiment is this ability to inhabit energy in our internal landscape. And our expression is our ability to take that internal landscape and turn it outward. But you can't necessarily know from someone's external expression exactly what's going on in the internal landscape. Part of that is because they're just sort of different modes. The other part is we are really good about disconnecting that internal landscape from our external expression. And we use masks. We use performative techniques. We use replication. We use good presentation and performance skills, right? Yeah. And we do that without the connection to the inner landscape. Again, that's going to drain us out. It's going to take us into burnout. We're going to be dealing with the imposter. We're going to feel less than trusting of ourselves and our ability to make an impact in our client's life when that's happening. And so authenticity is that place where they rub together, where your embodiment or your inhabiting of your internal energy self, your sensory being, and your external senses that can move things out into the world rub together. You can't see me, but I'm rubbing my hands together.
Yeah, well, right? I think we can hear you actually.
You can hear it right in the mic.
Slight rustle happening.
Right? And that spark.
Yeah.
That spark is where your aliveness becomes an offering into the world. And that's a magic sauce for leaders.
It sure is, but it involves not so much and it involves a level of self-trust.
Yes.
It involves a level of trust that we must develop within ourselves, that when we may be feeling discomfort or slightly out of control or highly ramped up or a little bit flatter than usual in some way, we have to trust our body, our expression, what's happening with us, enough to not turn away from ourselves.
That's right.
But rather to go, okay, what am I trying to tell myself here? What's happening? Right. How do I listen?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because that's really where, for want of a better expression, the rubber hits the road here.
Right.
That instead of then freezing or fawning or flighting away, we instead go, I'm going to stay with myself here. Yeah. I'm feeling some things that are a bit uncomfortable, or maybe even really uncomfortable, and I'm not really uncomfortable, and I'm not going to run. I'm not going to bury myself. I'm not going to deflect. I'm not going to spiritually bypass this or physically bypass it. I'm going to believe in myself enough and trust myself enough that I'm worthy of listening to here.
That's right. I think, one of the saddest things about how we're currently doing society, culture, is that we have become so conditioned to believe that only parts of expression or parts of people are worthwhile or allowed. And every single one of us have a lived experience and have actual evidence that says that part of you is not welcome. That low energy self isn't what we want. That part that has to pause to think about an answer is not moving fast enough. We've all been told, we all have a story that comes from a real live experience. I think one of the most beautiful things is choosing to be a heart-centered spiritual entrepreneur is asking for the intense version of healing of this part. If we're going to stay with it, if we're not going to burn ourselves out, if we're going to build sustainable, regenerative, aligned businesses that are making an impact, right? And so we get to turn to that part. And you may know exactly which one it is, right? For me, it was the slow part. My slowness was not allowed. If I don't get ahead of the problem, of the answer, of whatever it is, you are not welcome here. You're here to fix things and give the answer, so you better be fast at it. And I've had to meet the slow part of me. I've had to meet the part that I say doesn't, you're not good enough because you don't know everything. Or all of these parts that I've put into my own little exile wilderness, parts that got put there when I was a child. And I've had to say, you are so welcome in this work. In fact, you hold some brilliance that is needed. And so one of the ways we can practice this is we would never look at a client and say, that part of you is not welcome here. And so we got to turn those fingers around and say to ourselves, however you are is enough. And you have practiced and you're still practicing and you are in process. And so how you are, all the ways that you are and all the parts that you are so welcome. Now, when we integrate our nervous system, what we can trust is that the right parts will come forward when necessary, right? So even if I'm lower energy on a certain day, or I'm dealing with brain fog, or I've been moving through illness kind of things, and I've still been able to serve in that. Now, I've had to lower expectations about capacity with myself mostly, right? Yeah. And all of those things. So one of the ways that I do this first is I check in with my parts, right? Like what part needs support each day? What part is tender? What part is feeling too vulnerable? I work with my safety cues. That's a longer ongoing process. But something that's really easy to do and you can implement right away is to check in with yourself each day and say, what is my capacity and what is my resourcing? And I just do a little quick 0 to 10. And so if I go, okay, well, I think my capacity, look at my schedule. Oh, it's going to be an 8 today. I've got so much to do. I've got all these things to get done. And then I go, what's my resourcing? Oh, well, I didn't sleep well. I haven't eaten any protein today. Who knows where my water bottle is? There's a crying baby in the other room. My partner is sick, right? Like I've got all these other things happening. And I go, oh, well, my resourcing's like a 3. Well, I can't expect my capacity to move at an 8. I have to move that capacity back into relationship with my resourcing. And if I'm going to live that day outside of the current resourcing, I have to know where I'm drawing that energy from. And I have to have a plan for recovery. Right?
Yeah. I love that. Absolutely. So practical. And yet, if I think for everyone listening right now, if we're being really honest with ourselves, how many of us are truly checking in with ourselves in that really conscious, loving, supportive way? I think if many of us are being honest, there's not a lot of us that would be doing that. And this is essentially at the heart of everything to do with the nervous system and regulation and groundedness. Is like, what do we need to understand and be aware of and then consciously do to have this absolutely vital part of ourselves work in alignment with who we are and what we want to do and bring to the world? Because we can't do those things without that. Right. Or, we can try. We can try. But eventually, this is where, everyone, just so you're aware, this is where things like overwhelm, anxiety to a certain extent, it's not a blanket statement, and burnout, this is where things like this come from. They come from extreme nervous system dysregulation and not paying attention to these parts of ourselves. And of course, nobody here needs me. If you're a regular listener of this podcast, or even if you're a space holder and this is your very first time listening, you don't need me to tell you why this is so important as a space holder. We have to hold space for ourselves first before we can have the capacity to be able to do it for someone else.
Absolutely.
And so, Elisha, this makes me want to lead into asking you, like, if we're thinking about the coaches and guides, healers and space holders that are listening to this right now, It's a very big question, I know. Really, this is a question that just opens a portal and a doorway. And I kind of want to step into it myself and say, just work with Elisha is the answer. But, and everything that you brilliantly do in this space. But my question to you is that for anyone that does those things as a space holder that's listening right now, and they're coming to the realization, okay, this is not something that I'm understanding enough about myself, or I'm being sent signals that I need to do some more work here. What would you consider to be the most important first steps for them to look at taking?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about 3 C's that we want to have in our life. Okay. So the first C is connection. So how are you connecting to yourself every day? What are your practices of self-connection? Do you wake up in the morning and touch your body and bless it? Do you say thank you? Your gratitude practices, meditation practice, whatever it is for you, right? And the thing with modalities, whatever we might use, most modalities are going to work well enough. So don't get caught up on like, I need a new one, right?
Thank you.
Because I'll just add in
thank you.
Totally. So I'll add in another C here. It's consistency. What matters most is that you're doing it, right? So if you're like, I hate meditation, fine. I don't need to argue with you. Take a walk, go for a run, right? Get in your cold plunge, do whatever you're going to do consistently to build connection with yourself. Do it from the right framework of this is me loving and connecting to myself. Okay. Connection. The next takes connection into co-regulation. So as the space holder, facilitator, healer, whatever your particular kind of lens of that is, you're the conduit. You're the middleman, middle woman, middle goddess. All right. And so the co-regulation is you have to connect to something outside of yourself that's feeding you so that you can connect to the client and feed the space, feed their journey, whatever it is. So in your space, make sure you've got colors that work to support you, right? So I love the jewel tones, right? So my space has got all those kinds of things in it. Make sure textures in your space help you to feel grounded and supported. Items, image, symbols. So in front of me, I've got my, soul, this shell that I found. I've got my swan, I've got my praying golden goddess. Like I've got symbols and images in front of me that remind me who I am, that I can draw grounding and connection from, right? Being able to call on nature. I can look out my window and I can see the hawks, I can see the trees, right? So we're going to draw on co-regulation to help us hold the space. Also, lighting is huge. If you cannot use overhead lights, it's going to be best for you. If you cannot have fluorescence, anything that can be a little bit softer in your lighting is going to help give safety cues to your system. And then how are you holding the client in co-regulation? If we are faking it till we make it, if we have not connected to ourselves, if we are pushing past our capacity, we're actually feeding into that co-regulation relationship cues of unsafety and possibly even doing harm. So how we sit in our own self is important. So if you are at capacity and resourcing of 3, showing up 100% at 3, and you're letting your body figure out what that means. You don't have to know what that means. You just say to your body, we're working at that 3. Whatever it is, your body will be like, great, I can figure that out. Versus pushing ourselves or feeling guilty or shame or whatever else we're doing. If we even are working at a lower capacity, 100% at a lower capacity, said in quotes, is 1,000% safer for you and your client than you pushing through. And you coming from the imposter, you coming from I don't trust, you coming from any of that place that's pulling you out of your own center, because your neuroception is feeding cues to their neuroception. Their nervous system is listening to you to know, can I unmask in this space? Can I really go on this journey of transformation? Can I do this? You can be saying all the right things. If your body is not giving that cue subconsciously to the other person's subconscious, you're creating a barrier for their growth. You're also feeding your own imposter, urgency, all of those things, right? So then the third C, we've got connection, co-regulation. The third C is choice. Giving yourself choice, giving them choices. Choice is going to be the best way that we stay out of fawning, right? While we're working through those patterns, and we stay out of the rigidity and control. So even just in yourself, Simple ways to give choice. Do I want to eat this or do I want to eat that? And then just making a choice. Do I want to turn this on? Do I want to... Just the nervous system, when it knows there's choice, it's like, oh, we're safe enough to make a choice. We don't have to run from the tiger. You could even hide from the tiger, right? Just choice. Choice is a safety cue. And so even just asking yourself really simple questions, even when you think you know the answer for your client, not giving it, asking questions, right? Those are ways that we're keeping the nervous system in a healthier state.
I love it. Thank you so much. 3 C's and a bonus C, really 4
And a bonus
C's.
C of consistency, right?
Exactly. So I think you need to change that to 4 C's now.
4 C's.
4 C's is like, it's absolutely wonderful. So highly practical and grounded, and also deeply spiritual and expansive at a soul level and a body level as well. And so thank you for that. Elisha, we're almost at time, but I do want to circle back to something that we spoke about at the start of our chat and our interview today, and that is just the state of the world and just, right? And just if we can circle back to that for a moment, and just how, as sensitive, heart-centered, giving souls, which is, I believe in my heart, every single person in some way, shape or form that listens to a podcast like this and definitely does this kind of work, is just what are you, let's be positive, let's be optimistic, just, you know, amongst all of this, what are you most excited about or most feeling love and gratitude for in relation to nervous system work, in inverted commas, and how we move forward collectively as humanity with everything that's going on around us?
Yeah. I think really understanding how to live at the level of your nervous system and really understanding how to mobilize and immobilize as your system needs, for me, is the way that we can be radicalized into love in a sustainable way. Right? And that we can take actions that are going to serve humanity while also taking care of ourselves and not overriding our bodies. I know a lot of us fear engaging with the world. As a highly sensitive person as well, like, this has been something I've really had to work and build my muscle around, really learning to listen to my own regulation, my own set points, my own body, about when I have the energy to take action. I think this is why we need to be gathering in collectives and be with our hubs, because and this is, you know, we know this, if you practice circle work, you know this, we don't all go at the same time. So when we come together as a community, it's like, oh, I need to rest. And somebody else is like, great, I can take the baton, right? So that place in us that we feel like it's all on our own shoulders, I think the nervous system work can really help us to remind ourselves that my individual regulation is meant to be in relationship, interconnectedness to the collective hubs that I'm part of, right? And so we think about like that the sometimes we mobilize and sometimes we immobilize. Sometimes it's my turn to take the baton and be out front talking and actualizing and doing things, and other times it's my turn to rest. And we have to do both. We have to stay healthy. And the powers that be, they're counting on us not being healthy. They're counting on us burning out, right? And burning through. And so the more that we radicalize around love and support, and that we remember we're in this for the long haul, I think is super important. I think when you truly understand nervous system work, there's no way not to fall in love with people. Right? Because you're just like, oh my gosh, you're just an adaptive bunch of nerves walking around in skin trying to figure it out. Oh my goodness. Of course you think that way, you silly goose. That's just your adaptation. You haven't had an experience of love that would open your heart. I would love to be the person who gets to have this moment of smiling at you or having a conversation with you and getting to say, I have an experience that maybe you've never heard before. So the nervous system can't change without experience. And a lot, for me, what I've learned about making myself safe in my body and being able to offer that as part of what I give the world is that I can be with people that are really different and possibly even feel that they hate me or they would judge me for the color of my skin or for the place that I was born or for anything else that is just an asinine way of looking at people, right? But I can sit there safely with them because I know how to make myself safe. And I could say, are you interested in hearing a different experience? And that can be my offering to them. I may or may not change their mind, but some seed was planted in their body. Now they can reject it, that's up to them. But something of goodness was offered. And I think the more that we do our work and we offer it back to the collective of seeds of goodness, we can trust that at some point the beauty is going to outgrow the hate.
Elisha, thank you so very much. There are so many things that you say in there that are truly profound. I think for us as space holders and also human beings, the one that stands out for me the most from a focus of what we do as space holders and here at Inspired Coach Podcast is what you just said there about yourself, and say, I am safe within myself. Yeah. I have got myself. I hold myself. And the only way that that is possible for you is because you have done and are doing the work.
Yeah.
And that goes for all of us. Thank you so much for your gifts in the world. I have had the great joy and beauty of knowing you now for a number of years. You are magical in so many ways that are both seen and unseen. I thank you for everything that you have brought to this interview today at a micro level, but just thank you from me at a macro level for the difference that you are making in the work that you do with the leaders and spiritual entrepreneurs and space holders that you work with, because the work that you do makes this industry better, richer, deeper, and just enhances people's lives in infinite ways. And so I am just so grateful to you in every way.
Oh, thank you, Julie. And I am so grateful for you as you being one of my inner team and the ones that support me so that I can show up to do this work. So thank you for championing me and continuing to show me again and again, even the spaces that you create, that we can do this. We absolutely can do this.
We can.
Yeah.